The battle for equality is something we're going to cover often here on Quick Take, including every Wednesday morning at this time. For our first conversation in this weekly segment, we want to dig into the future of civil rights in a post-Donald Trump America. Joining me now to help us do just that is Bloomberg News' Naomi Nix, live from Washington, D.C. Naomi, you recently published an article for Bloomberg about policy areas at stake. Where do you think Biden will begin? What are his priorities going to be?
I think the difference between a Biden White House and the Trump administration is going to be evident both in their rhetoric around civil rights issues as well as their policies. So, for instance, Trump and his top advisors repeatedly questioned the idea of systematic racism and said that, police departments don't have a racism problem at all. I think with the Biden White House, we're going to see him use his bully pulpit to talk sympathetically about the ways minority communities are treated differently in our country. I think on a policy, level, he will see some different ways he takes on racial inequality. He has pledged to create more affordable housing, help first-time homebuyers get into the market, expand community college access to low-income people, as well as make several changes to the justice system, like ending the cash bail system and decriminalizing marijuana, just to name a few things.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot that he could do. I think back to a few months ago when we got news that President Trump signed the executive order that barred diversity training, and those diversity trainings included the ideas that the country is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive. Could we see a Biden administration bring those back to the federal government?
Yes, I think, we're likely to see Biden take a much different approach to that kind of issues, in part because he has a vastly different ideology about diversity, the value of diversity, and the impact of racism in our country. And so he regularly talks about how people who are underrepresented in our country have a different obstacles they face to achieving the American dream. And so that tonal difference from the White House will likely be evident in that area as well.
What about when it comes to LGBTQ rights? Certainly the Democratic Party has embraced these in a different way than the Republican Party and the Trump administration, especially when it comes to the rights of trans people. Naomi, how do you think the Biden administration will continue to push those forward?
Biden has said that in his first 100 days, he's going to pass the Equality Act, which is a proposed law that would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and protect Americans from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in areas like housing, employment, public services. The Trump administration repeatedly opposed passing that Equality Act, so that's one area that the Biden administration can jump in quickly to address LGBT issues. We might also see the Biden administration offer different guidance to American schools about how they should be supporting transgender students, who might want to use bathrooms or participate in sports teams that match their gender identity.
Naomi, what about when it comes to immigration? As we speak right now, there are hundreds of kids separated at the border who are separated from their parents at the border. What has the Biden administration said about fixing that and finding those children's parents, but also a path to citizenship for the undocumented people who live in the U.S. right now?
Biden has been very critical of the Trump administration's approach to immigration, particularly as it pertained to migrant children. And so he has said on day one, he plans to create a task force that can reunite the children that are still separated from their children, from their parents. We're likely also to see him do things that he can from the open, like bolster the DACA program, which provided deportation relief to young people who came to the country at a very young age. And we're likely to see him return to the way President Obama approached immigration, which was really, kind of limiting deportation to those who committed serious crimes.
Bloomberg News' Naomi Nix, live from Washington. Naomi, thank you so much for your time this morning.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quicktake now for insight in an instant.